Hello and welcome to another Office Hours. Capsule. That's right. This is a small section of my Office Hours live stream that I do on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/TheAstroPub and youtube.com/TheAstroPub live. This is a segment of my live stream, but I like to snip these out because often when I cover topics like news and lore and more, looking at like updates and such, people don't want to watch my full live stream. But if you like long form content, we talk about Star Citizen. I just talked a lot about Star Wars, UFO conspiracies. We talked about a lot of stuff before we get into this. We get off on different tangents and stuff like that. So if you want something to listen to the background of your work, please do check us out there. And of course, join us live for this. So today, what we're going to be talking about is an update to Vulkan. That's right. We've got some updates to Vulkan, which have kind of updated from the last monthly report. So if you watched my monthly report, which I'll put up there, there was an update to Vulkan. They talked about when they were planning on releasing Vulkan. And this is an interesting story because this has updated that part. And then we have an update recently to that in the first place. So let's get to watching this. All right. I'm turning off all the stuff so we don't get too much. All right. So this was posted on January 19th and didn't get an update until Valentine's Day, last Friday. Dear CIG development team, first I want to thank you for this incredible work you've done in Star Citizen. The release of version 4.0 is a major milestone, and it's exciting to see the game continue to evolve and push boundaries. I wanted to ask about the long-awaited Vulkan HDR implementation. These features have been highly anticipated by the community, and I'm curious when their release is planned now that 4.0.0 has been launched. Updated Vulkan integration and HDR support would be great, especially for those of us with high-performing setups who are eager to experience Star Citizen as its full visual potential with better 1% lows. If there are any updates on the timeline of the current development status for these features, I would greatly appreciate hearing about them. Thank you for your continued dedication to this ambitious project. I look forward from hearing back from you. Kind regards. So, on Friday, Ali Brown, the mad lad himself, responded, "Hi. The focus for Star Citizen recently on the code side has been stability and quality of life, QoL, improvements in existing features, especially after the rollout of server meshing and a huge impact it's had on the game. As a result, the Star Citizen team haven't been able to take a full new version of the engine in a while, because this would potentially would bring potentially instability and slow down QL improvements for players, and also likely prevent regular/timely releases, all of which are critical for continued engagement. But the Squadron 42 team has been on the road to testing Vulkan. Has been road testing Vulkan, which is enabled by default for them, along with HDR and multi-threaded rendering. So hopefully most of the kinks are ironed out by the time they reach Star Citizen, though I won't be able to predict when exactly that'll be. They're also considering changes internally that would allow Star Citizen team to more easily take piecemeal updates to the engine into live release to reduce the risk of instability for lower risk features/systems. As we're, of course, eager to get all new shiny things into your hands as soon as possible without compromising the player experience. Thanks, Ollie Brown, Senior Director of Gameplay, Graphics and Procedural Tech." Now, this is important because this directly contradicts what they said in the monthly report, where they said that the next major update, they would have the full implementation of Vulkan. That was produced for the November and December monthly report, and then this came out just directly after that, pretty recently, last Friday. So we know that Vulkan is a feature they do not want to implement because it could cause instability. Does this mean Vulkan's dead? We're not going to get Vulkan? No, obviously not. But we could or couldn't get it. We may not get Vulkan at all this year as a result, because it is one of those features. And this caused a lot of consternation. I mean, for me personally, when it was first brought to me, I was like, no Vulkan. We're not getting Vulkan this year. It sucks, but, CIG is trying to focus on things. However, today, Ollie came back with another update. I'll add some more details/context to my previous reply to help answer some of the questions in this thread. But please, let's all play nicely. I only post here with very open answers because I enjoy interactions with you all. When I said Star Citizen hasn't taken the full drop of the engine, that means no full drop of the combined main branch, which includes every system, not just graphics. Individual changes are integrated into Star Citizen all the time if they are sufficiently decoupled and thoroughly tested. Lots of development continue directly within the Star Citizen branch, particularly with stability, performance, quality of life, and various new features for upcoming releases. The graphics changes in the main branch include many stability and performance improvements to Vulkan, including multi-threading, HDR, shader optimizations, and more. However, they are also intertwined with many other parts of the codebase, such as the wider rendering changes and profiling/memory management changes that touch every system. So the Vulkan changes can't trivially be integrated into Star Citizen without the rest. It would be possible to manually integrate just the renderer and then undo all the unrelated changes, but this would probably push back our overall schedule by several weeks, and likely miss the deadlines for Planetech V5, ray tracing, Squadron 42, etc. So normally we wait for Star Citizen to take the full main branch. So while a lot of work has gone into making the main branch of Vulkan faster and more stable, the rest of the main branch may not be, and the company needs to take careful judgment about when to integrate, how long to test, and how much risk they're prepared to introduce into each release. Also, it's worth noting that while Vulkan seems faster and more stable for us internally, the true test is always when it goes to a wider public, which is with a much broader mix of hardware, drivers, and software. Someone asked about the possibility of Vulkan/tech preview, and this is something we're actively considering. But again, this costs time and effort, which pushes back overall schedule progress because we have to either integrate and decouple just the renderer, or we need to take the whole main. And then we could end up with problems in unrelated systems that we, graphics, cannot fix without pulling people off of other potentially higher priority work, e.g. server stability, QL improvements. So a preview channel only becomes worthwhile if we suspect there would be a good prolonged delay to getting graphics/tech updates to the players. But as I mentioned previously, we're also exploring ways we can try to keep features system improvements more isolated to give management more options as to when to integrate each feature/system into Star Citizen, such that feature A doesn't block feature B. I can appreciate that some of this can be frustrating to hear for people who are looking forward to improvements to Vulkan in the short term, but trust me, it's equally frustrating for us developers. It's far easier to take a gung-ho approach, but that has been proven several past releases to not lead to a good player experience, which ultimately hurts the game and the company. We still got more. Ollie was just posting through it, or doing a really good job of keeping us updated. So there's a lot of cool stuff here. If people want to know what's actually actively being worked on by graphics, I can give a high-level overview. Ray tracing BVR. This is required for ray tracing and is usually complex and expensive in most games, but even more so with our scale and moving zones. Ray trace global illumination. This is making good progress and has started to be actively used in Squadron 42. However, there are still improvements required to several areas before it's ready for prime time. Ray traced reflections. For the first version, these will use screen-spaced colors for objects on screen, and simplified material representations for objects off-screen. Currently, there are still some issues with noise/blobbiness to resolve. Screen space probes. This system is that triggers and combines the results from global illumination, both ray traced and probe-based, reflections, both ray traced and screen space, and occlusion. Character decals. This tech will be used to place things such as scars, wounds, and potentially tattoos. The intention is for it to be used by cinematics, Squad 42, character customizer, scars, tattoos, and dynamic changes, weapon impacts. Vulkan. There are constant improvements required for performance and stability for Vulkan, and we're frequently adding new extensions to enable new technology or optimizations. Planetech V5/Genesis. This is a huge change for how we distribute all content on planets, with the goal of being much better visuals, performance, and provide more power to gameplay systems for things like harvestables, mining, and creatures. Video memory. We're overhauling how video memory is budgeted to force developers to remain in budget, while giving players explicit control of how they allocate their video memory to each graphical effect. The end result should be better performance for everyone, as low video memory looks to be our number one GPU performance issue. Damage map compression. Damage maps allow for accurate damage and salvage across our ships, but the networking of this data has a significant cost, so we're compressing these maps down to a fraction of the raw size, such that each packet of the data is a maximum of 32 kilobytes. Kilobytes? Or kilobits? I think kilobytes. There are many smaller features and bugs that I can't hope to list here, but hopefully it gives you an idea of how busy we are in getting new features ready for you. He kept posting too. Dynamic damage weapon impacts. If that could come, if that's coming to humans so we can actually get visible wounds, that would be fantastic. I think this is meant to be a mature game, but without gun impact / damage, it definitely lacks the visceral feel to some of the combat. If my interpretation is correct, then color me happy. Yes, that is the intention, but this is still a work in progress on the graphics side with the game code and art yet to be started. So this won't be for a while. It also is likely that the game team will add gore settings for users to opt out of realistic wounds. There's another one. Appreciate the response and letting us know what's up with Vulkan / multi-threading. Is number one for me as far as I'm waiting for it. So it means a lot to hear directly from you. Just means that much more excited for 4.1, which is hopefully not very far away. Thanks for taking the time to wade into the waters of dealing with the general public. I know it's not always the thing to do, but appreciate it. Just to clarify, I didn't say any particular feature will be in 4.1. The decision about how many releases we do, when they are, and how the number named them, and what tech features are included / integrated in each release are all ultimately lies with Star Citizen's leadership, not myself. God, he just posted. Have you investigated NVIDIA's mega geometry for the BVR rebuilds? It seems like a potential win in scenarios like yours, where there's a high level of dynamism and heavy load on CPU to rebuild the BVR for ray tracing. In a nutshell, it's able to shift more of that work from the CPU to the GPU. It sucks that it's vendor specific right now, but it wouldn't be surprised me to learn that AMD and Intel have some similar technology cooking. No, we've not dug into mega geometry yet because A, NVIDIA only, not a deal breaker, but clearly cross-platform is better than investments of time. B, relies on meshes / clusters, which haven't been implemented yet, but is planned. P.S. It's a silly name for a feature that has very little to do with what it actually does. But I guess accelerated BAVR building from cluster geometry wasn't as easy to sell with GPUs with. See if he goes through anyone's. Oh, geez, he is just posting. Wow, okay. We're going to keep going through this. Okay. Hello, ray tracing is a nice buzzword since the first RTX GPUs and so on and so forth. Blech. What about the anti-aliasing? I miss it since years. It's available on all GPU manufacturers. Often you can see on the radar MFD to make the game very ugly. Will Planet Tech V10 in 20 years have no anti-aliasing too? Will Squadron 42 be this ugly in 2027? It's 2027 then, not 1995 or something. Ray tracing is not the all solution. To be honest, I was really looking forward to Squadron 42, which is one of the reasons why I can't watch and play Star Citizen anymore. There are other games that simply do this better. Perhaps it'll be understood the upcoming Squadron 42 failure. Perhaps it will be understood by the upcoming Squadron 42 failure, which is very sad. I hope you devs get the right direction in front of the release. Best regards. Show us on the doll where Chris Roberts touched you. God damn. I wasn't sure whether to reply given the tone, but the issue with the radar shown here is genuine and worth explaining. The radar intentionally skips the anti-aliasing pass because all temporal anti-aliasing techniques have major ghosting issues with transparent UI. As such, it's expected that the UI team use approaches that give the built-in anti-aliasing. But that clearly isn't the case here. I'll check with the UI team how this is built and what our plans are moving forward. However, I would also highlight that your image appears to be at 700p, i.e. lower than an Xbox 360 PS3. As such, it'll be exacerbating any anti-aliasing issues. Maybe check with the issues is severe for you to point is severe for you to at 1440p or 4K with upscaling. Edit. Damn, Ali, you didn't have to murder him like that. Gian pointed out that if you right click on the open image, it gives you the correct resolution for 1440p, and anti-aliasing is still terrible at this point, can be ignored. The rest of the game does use anti-AA, and our AA and upscaling solution TSR has been generally reported to match or beat that of other temporal non-machine learning approaches, i.e. not as good as DLS, which is generally always the best. You didn't have to murder him, Ali. Oh, God. Why does this game look like shit? Because your resolution is shit. Fix it. What is it? PEMCAC? Problem exists between chair and head? Oh, God. Oh, thanks for such a detailed reply. I think the majority of concerns come from the fact that multi-threading is considered by many to be key quality of life update, as it's pegged to provide significant client performance increases. It's a shame it's going to be delayed until other preferred systems are stabilized. But as you've rightly clarified, it's going to rock the boat. Thanks again. We found that multi-threading and the renderer has given a huge boost to the time of the render job, e.g. from 30 milliseconds to 10 milliseconds or less in a complex scene. However, we've also seen that the render job often isn't the bottleneck, so it's very context-specific, scene plus hardware, as to whether you'd see a large benefit or none at all. It remains the case that the main thread is nearly always the performance bottleneck, assuming you have a sensible GPU for the chosen resolution. I think that's it. Oh, he still does one more. Probably exists between keyboard and chair. Thank you. PEBCAC. I always forget what it is. Wouldn't that be the case anyway? So you don't pull engine changes from the main branch for the sake of playability and stability, which I understand. But if you leave it all this time when the management gives you the okay to put it in the build, wouldn't you still be in the same boat if you pulled it now from a graphics performance point of view? You'd still have to bug fix all the things because of the wider release onto the build and for people to test, given the different hardware, etc. So looking for it to be on the outside as a backer and looking both paths still leads to having to fix things and potential instability regardless. Thank you, Frosty. That is one of those things that I was worried about, is that if CIG is not putting any features in until everything's fixed, once they put all these features in and they're worried that might break the game, we'll break the game. And then you have to fix those problems. This feels like a chasing your tail sort of situation. So remember what Ali says. While the existing features needed to be tested and stabilized, regardless, decoupling the Vulkan changes from everything else in the engine to integrate them into Star Citizen sooner would be new work that we otherwise don't need to do. We would also potentially lead to new bugs. Let's see if there's anything else. I think that's it for Ali. Yeah. So this is a really good breakdown. It's important to think. So effectively, we may not be getting Vulkan, not because Vulkan isn't ready, but because you could introduce new bugs in other systems because it's connected to many other systems, and then that would just have them to chase it down even further. I'm going to summarize this as best I can because I think I got this. And if you're a CIG employee watching this after the fact or in chat right now, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I think what they're saying is that the current build of Star Citizen is not stable yet. And they want to get the current build of Star Citizen stable so that when they integrate the current build into the main branch, they can use, if it causes bugs, they can spin that off into its own PTU, ePTU, like they were talking about in the past. And that ePTU can then be the branch that has all the bugs that they fix over time and leave the main branch in this as a stable branch with new content updates coming in. So that they have two branches of the game. This gets fixed over time and gets better and better in terms of fixed. This stays pretty much the same with new content coming through. And those two pipelines are parallel until this is working, and then they integrate it back into a PTU to test it further. If it works, then it goes to live. I think that's what they're moving towards, because they just do not have the stable game yet. They don't want to add Vulkan in and just make it unstable and remove all the things. hopefully that's the explanation. That was actually a really good read. So I'll leave the link in the description below if you want to read the whole thread and go through it all. But yeah, I think it's a good indication. We're probably not going to get Vulcan anytime soon. I would say this is a pull out of my butt sort of prediction, but I'll say 6 months. June would maybe the earliest we'd get it, and that's if nothing goes wrong. And this is Star Citizen, so something's gonna go wrong. But yeah, as always, let me know. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy this, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe for more content, and hit the bell icon to be notified when these release. And as always, I want to hear your thoughts down below on any of this. Are you upset that we may not be getting Vulcan this year? Or are you hopeful that we might get Vulcan this year? Let me know. Again, always join us live at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, youtube.com/TheAstroPub live on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. Love to have you come in here. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.